I am back here for week 2 with BetPrep's player prop shark, Brad Feinberg. Brad, how are you doing today? And look, let's get through. I believe you have 8 players you want to go through today, so just kick us off anywhere. Which is the first one you want to discuss for our viewers this week?
You got it, Jamie. Last week, I did 34 of these. Somehow I went 28-6. Didn't do quite as well in the show. I know we talked off air how sometimes that's just luck of the draw. Hopefully these 8 are some of the 8 ones that perform well this week. I'm going to start off, Jamie, with Mark Ingram. Now, his over-under for attempts is only 8.5. And I say only because, look, last week he got half the snap count. David Johnson and Philip Lindsay split the other half. But he got 26 carries in a victory. And to me, Jimmy, that was the whole king, a victory. They won the game feeding him the ball. Now, does that mean I'm expecting 26 carries from this week? Absolutely not. But I think 8.5 is very low, because I also think this isn't going to be a game where, I don't think Cleveland's necessarily going to score 40 points on this team. I really don't, Jamie. I think this game can stay somewhat competitive for a little bit. I don't think they're just going to fall behind 28-0. Maybe some people do. I don't. And I don't see Tyrod Taylor as the kind of guy who's going to throw the ball like 60 times. I don't see it like that. I would be very surprised if Mark Ingram does not get 9 rushing attempts. Now, you also can bet over 35.5 rushing yards. I like that one as well. But I could see, to be honest, a 12-carry, 32-yard game. I wouldn't be shocked. I did bet both, but out of the two, Jamie, the one I like better is Ingram over 8.5 rushing attempts.
Well, let's talk about another player.
Yes.
Sorry, let's talk about another player prop that you like for a team that lost, and that is Allen Robinson, the wide receiver of Chicago Bears. I was stuck on Jalen Ramsey for a lot of the game. Obviously, the big talk was that he didn't run a route past 10 yards down the field, but there's something you like about him this week.
Well, listen, Jamie, last week, let's just look at it. You're right. He went against the top guy, and let's look what happened. He got 11 targets and 6 catches. Guess what? He still went over. And I took Allen Robinson back the last 2 full seasons plus this one game, so 33 games. He's gone over 22 or 33. Okay, that's obviously doesn't take a mathematician to realize that. 2 out of 3 chance that he's going to go over this. And, now he's going against the Bengals defense. I wouldn't exactly call them staunch. I think that's fair to say. And, to me, look, he's gone over 8 of his last 10. Again, 22 of his last 33. This is the guy who averages about 6.5 yards, 6.5 catches per game, not 5.5. I would have made this over under 6.5. I think it's 1 catch too low. So I'm playing the over here, Jamie.
Let's stick with the wide receiver theme. Mac Jones's favorite target in week 1 was Jacoby Myers. Will that be the case again here in week 2 against the Jets?
Jamie, I'm going to say yes. Like last week, I had him over 3.5. Now we go up to 4.5, but Jamie, I still think it's worth it. Since he became, Jamie, kind of a focal point, you want to say, of the New England offense, his last 11 games, he's gone over this 4.5 number 7 times, averaging 5.5 catches per game. But here's the thing, Jamie, most of those games were with Cam Newton, right? Now we're getting a guy who can actually pass the ball in Mac Jones. He had 9 targets last week. I'm expecting Jacoby Myers. I wouldn't be shocked. Again, I think he's going to get 85 plus catches. I think he's an average over 5 catches a game this year. Again, I understand why this number is only 4.5. Plus, there's no juice on this. I actually got plus 110 on this on top of it. But I think there's at least a 50% chance he gets 5 or more catches. He's been doing it since he became part of this offense as the number 1 kind of de facto guy. And again, now that I have a quarterback who can actually pass the ball on Mac Jones, why can't he get 5 catches? I think he absolutely will.
I'm with you on that one, but it's been a lot of positivity so far for this segment. Let's go the other way. Let's talk about a couple unders that you like. One of them was Big Ben. The Steelers had an upset victory as 6.5-point underdogs in Buffalo last week, but you're not buying a big game from Big Ben here in week 2.
Well, Jamie, first, a couple things about this. I was able to get a prop. Now, you could do this 1 of 2 ways, but, on there's certain sites you can sneak this one in. The raw passing yards, Jamie, for him is 277.5. I like that. If that's all you can get, bet it. There's even a better one. I would bet under 283.5 for rushing and passing combined. Now you're like, oh, what's the big deal? Well, he only averages a half a yard rushing per game the last year. So, I basically think I'm getting a free 5.5 to 6 yards by just taking that combined. The chance of him getting 6 yards receiving, Jamie, 6 yards rushing, very slim. I'm only taking my chances on that. But again, if you're a sports book only has the passing yards, still just do the passing yards. Jamie, I go back, his last basically year now, he's 13-5 to the under here, and he's only averaging 241 yards a game. This over-under is 277.5 or 283.5. You do the combined. That's significantly higher. And plus, Jamie, we now have a guy in Najee Harris who I expect to get 20 rushes in this game. Before, they didn't have that kind of running game, and he wasn't even getting to 278 yards when they didn't have a running attack. Now they have Najee Harris. I expect them to feed the ball to Najee Harris. So to me, Jimmy, I think this is a screaming under.
Agree with you there. I think Najee Harris has a huge bounce back week this week. Loved his, again, 100% of the snap count for him in week 1. I think he's going to have that production that will follow here in week 2. But we tease another under. Let's talk about it. Mecole Hardman. Yeah. Last week, Travis Kelce, big week. Tyreek Hill, big week. Patrick Mahomes, big week. Not so much for really anybody else on the roster. Is that kind of the formula you expect again this week against Baltimore?
Again, Jamie, look, with these props, you don't have to be the smartest man in the room. Sometimes it's just common sense. Sometimes he's just right there to be seen. And I'm not saying I'm any smarter than anyone else. These are just obvious things. Let's look at Mecole Hardman's career, Jamie. He's played his last 32 games. He's 26-6 to this under. His last full season of 16 games, he's 13-3 to the under. What's he done his last 9? 9-0 to the under. Doesn't mean he won't get 4 catches, Jamie. I'm smart enough to know, and he could get 12 catches. It can happen. But in my opinion, the math says there's a much better chance than not that Mecole Hardman is not going to get 4 catches. Now, his over-under for receiving yards, I believe, is 37.5. That one I don't like as much because Mecole Hardman, kind of like Tyreek Hill, Jamie, is the kind of guy that can get 50 yards just in 1 catch. I'm going to dare him to get 4 catches. If he does, I'll take my medicine.
Let's go back to the more positive, another over here. Mike Williams had a humongous game in week 1. They used him all over the field and a little bit differently than we've seen the coaching staffs of years past use him. You like him to keep that up here in week 2?
Jamie, it's really interesting. Like what you said, I really noticed a difference. He looked like I took him on my fantasy teams this year, Mike Williams. He was one of my breakout kind of guys. And he really was, he's got 12 targets and he was right there with Keenan Allen. Like they were really using this guy. Okay. It was like for real. It was legit. And it really did feel like it had a different vibe to it. Now here's what surprised me. Yeah. I bet over Jamie 53.5 yards. And I'll be honest, I bet that not even doing the research on BetPrep at the time, because I just like, this is a new player. This is a new, everything just looked better. But Jamie, interesting. In his last 24 games, he's gone over 53.5, 15 of those 24, 62%. So to me, I have a guy that's been going over anyway. Now his role seems vastly improved. And Jamie, what teams are going against again?
Houston Texans.
No. Mike Williams is going against Dallas this week.
Dallas, sorry,
Dallas,
my bad.
even
I got the wrong Texas team there.
Yeah, wrong. But he's going against Dallas. A team I'm expecting a high scoring game. I'm expecting a pass flow kind of game. So to me, I think this is a great play for his over, Jamie. I really do.
No, I agree with you. And I was foreshadowing a little bit because the next plot involves a wide receiver going against the Texans. This one might get a few people raising their eyebrows, though, because Odell Beckham Jr. has already been ruled out for this game. Would you like the under for Jarvis Landry's receiving yards? Tell us why.
Well, look, Jamie, to me, and I, by the way, love the player. Jarvis Landry is one of my favorite guys to watch. I would want him on my team every day of the week. I think he's a winner. I really like the player a lot. But I just think this number, Jamie, I think we're getting an overreaction to the Odell Beckham injury. Now, last week, he did have 71 yards against Kansas City, so I would have lost by half yard. I get that. But when I take this back to his last full season, he's 13-3 to the under. Okay, that's pretty strong. And to me, and they didn't have Odell Beckham last year, and he's still 13-3 to the under. He's only averaged 57 yards per game, Jamie, during that stretch. Again, Odell Beckham didn't play last year. So to me, I think that this is a crazy overreaction to Odell Beckham not playing. This isn't like something that's new. This was something that was happening last year as well. I'm expecting a heavy run script game in this game. And there is a chance, they are a double-digit favorite that they do win this game by a lot, and they don't need to pass that ball much against the Texans. Again, I think this is at least a 60-some% winning bet, at least.
All right, let's wrap it up with your final player prop, and you are in lockstep where most people here in Chicago of feed David Montgomery the ball. You like his over on 14.5 attempts in week 2. Tell us why.
Well, Jamie, look, I got to be honest. I always admit things when I think I'm wrong. And David Montgomery is a guy, when I watched him play his rookie year and the early part of the second year, I thought I didn't think the guy was very good. Okay. And the David Montgomery I've seen recently, he looks like a bull out there. He's running like with a purpose. He's running angry. He's running hard. I've been incredibly impressed. Now, the Bears coaching staff has obviously been impressed too, because in his last 6 games, Jaime. He's gone over this total 5 of 6, but that's not even what I like about it. He's gone way over, Jaime. He's averaging over 20 attempts a game. Again, not going against a staunch defense, a game they're actually favored to win. So there's a good chance that I'm going to have the game flow, game script side on my favor. This one, I'm going to really take my chance here. I think David Montgomery over 14.5 is a really nice bet.
I like it. He was the best player for the Bears in the Sunday night game last week. And as you said, this is a game the Bears can win this week. So we might get a little bit more of David Montgomery down the stretch. Thanks as always, Brad. The player props sharp over at BetPrep, and make sure you are using betprep.com and going to @BetPrepUS on Twitter before you wager on any of these games to make sure you're doing your research.